Pro Wrestling Spotlight, presented by Hami Media and the Pro Wrestling Reflection, where we discuss the very best of the best in pro wrestling history.
And what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
The two soundest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation, maybe in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, are right here, right now. Mr. Perfect and the excellence of execution, the Hitman.
WrestleMania weekend isn't complete without the Heartbreak Kid, and he is on his way.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
They think they got the answers. I change the question.
You will rest in peace.
Get used to it in Ric Flair. Who you're looking at, the man.
Yes, man! What the
I think he's cute. He's so sexy. He's got the look. This riser goes wild. Got the moves that really move me. He sends chills up and down my spine.
What's going on there, Reflection? What the fuck was that? Is that a cat? I heard a meow. It messed me up. It messed my flow up. It just messed up. You know, we do it live here. We do it live. I hear shit. PW hears shit. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But anyway, let me try that again. In my oh so melodious tones. What's going on there, Reflectionites? I heard it again. What is going on there to the Vitoites? Might be you. But anyway, what's going on to the Vitoites? The Haminites, the probationary PWC. I guess you're still on probation, GBT. You know, you was good a couple weeks ago, and now you're slipping again. Now you're going into solitary confinement. Now I'm gonna have to put you on 23-hour lockdown. But again, neither here nor there. I'm a forgiving man. I'm a forgiving warden. I will pardon you if you do what you're supposed to do. But anyway, neither here nor there. So welcome to the PWR podcast here at the Hami Media Group at podbean.com. And welcome to a very special edition of the PWR Spotlight Greatest Heel Turns edition. And we will talk about what we're gonna get into that subject in a couple of minutes. But before we do all that, I must introduce myself because I am vain like that. I must introduce myself because it's part of the show. We've been doing this for goddamn 7-8 years, goddammit. So if you don't know me for the last 7-8 years, the hell is wrong with y'all, man? You know what? I'm gonna bitch slap a lot of people who say, who the hell are you? Who is this Puerto Rican right in my fucking screen? Who is this Puerto Rican, on the audio? I'm saying it, man. It's been 7 years. You better know my goddamn name. I am the studious one. I am the effervescent one. I am the
blasphemous one.
Sometimes I'm blasphemous, but mostly I'm truthful. But most importantly, I'm the glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, and probationary PWC punditry. The only objective man in this political hemisphere. The only objective man in this social media conundrum. The Professor Jabba Cruz. And I'm not here alone. No. And if you don't know my partner in crime, what is wrong with you? I'm going to bitch slap you even more. I'm going to kick you in the nuts. I'm going to be the groomer that TW always keeps calling me. I'm going to groom you. I'm going to groom you good. Me and Epstein's going to groom you. But anyway, neither here nor there. He's the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, dum-dum doing its own, the iron stomach one, Dr. Freaking Stein, and the undisputed, undeniable Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World. Woo! Tommy Wonder, how you doing, my friend?
Shit flash.
The hell are you looking at?
I turned my person.
Jesus Christ.
There it is. There it is.
See, you was off for a couple of seconds.
Listen, I'm all about alliteration. I grew up reading comic books. Pro wrestling is full of them. Hulk, Hogan, Hitman, Hart. Who else? Anyway. Brutus Beefcake. I got your name. I can't believe it. After all these years, you introduce yourself. You always sound like something's missing. I know what it is.
And what's that?
Power Bottom Professor.
That is the dumbest name. I am not going to co-sign that name. Hell no.
Alliteration, and it is truthful. Check your DMs. If you made them public, if you got doxxed, people would see you are wearing the catcher's mitt. By wearing the catcher's mitt, I mean catcher.
Hell to the no. I am the groomer. Me and Epstein are the groomers. Plural. It's S. But anyway, neither here nor there. Reflectionites. And again, no, for the I'm not going to get into that because then, FCC and all that stuff. We'll get at the professor. The cops will come, the CIA will come.
If the FCC listened to our show, we'd have 12 listeners. Stop it.
I'm just saying, we got to protect ourselves. Again, this is for entertainment purposes only, just like Tucker Carlson said.
Since you have outed yourself as the groomer of the young boys, I ended out myself, me and my daughter Aubrey. Have you ever accidentally stole a 12-pack of water, a 24-pack of water from the grocery? We did today.
Are you proud of yourself?
No, I was embarrassed. I almost went back in to pay for it, but I was like, I can't do it. I put it on the bottom of the cart, and it flipped in. So when I rang everything up, I couldn't see it because it was under further. It was a little short carts. They got them in New Jersey, the little half carts.
Yeah.
And it was upside down. So it was a cardboard box of plastic. It looked like nothing. So we get to the car. I go to throw everything in there, and I look after I get all the groceries out. I'm like, we just stole some water. And I threw them car shit. And I'm like, those people, they have cameras at Meijer. I don't know if you have Meijer in New Jersey. Every time I go there, if I scan two things with my hand and put them both in the bag, they play the replay on the screen and put the red light on and make the girl come over and check and then put the thing in there that I scanned them both. Yet they don't see me walking out with water. Well,
did the red light go on?
No. Oh. I didn't even know until I got to the car.
Again, we have just witnessed white privilege. Again, white privilege. You know
People
what?
Think I'm Arabic. That's brown.
No. It's white privilege, Reflectionites. He just showed you right now. He just told you. No one cares because he did it. But if I did it, if I did it, you know what? If I did it in my cart, if my cart had that, you know what would happen? SWAT teams, a knee in my neck and all that stuff. You would have to, burn.
But you know what would happen?
Yeah.
At least two of those dudes would have been gay, and they would have recognized you and let you go. So you're fine.
No, it wouldn't be fine. I'd be dead, and you would have to riot in my name. But anyway, let's not get into that. We're not going to recycle that history. We're going to recycle a different history, Reflectionites. Again, this is the PWR Spotlight Greatest Heel Turns Edition. And again, for TW, because I got to educate him again, it's the marquee on the title. We're not putting the greatest heel turns of all time. I'm just naming an example of one of the greatest heel turns of all time, just like we've done for the last year or so. It's part of the marquee of the PWR podcast here at the Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com. And what are you holding up? I can't see it. And I look closer. Oh, that's the bloodline. Oh, that's Sami Zayn. Okay, Sami Zayn on one. Who's the other? Oh, Kevin Owens. The former tag team.
Did they turn on each other?
No, they just mutually are on different shows being good guys. That's all.
Oh, I meant when Sammy was with the Bloodline.
Yeah, they turn on each other. And he's holding up a Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes edition action figure, Ultimate
edition.
Whatever, man. You know
what I don't
We're not doing unboxing, man. You said you retired, man.
I didn't unbox them. I just showed them to you.
You're showing them.
This is it. This is my soul Marty Jannetty figure right there.
And it's apropos that's what we're hold that up again. That is what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about the Rockers splitting up in 1992 Reflectionites.
That was 92? Oh yeah,
that was 1992. We're going to talk about the Barbershop, but before that, TW, because a couple of weeks ago we did the greatest heartthrob tag team edition spotlight. So, we got to have to merge two subjects into one. And the funny thing is, okay, you got to, okay, again, this is not a reveal, man. We got to do a show here. This is what it is with TW, man. He's stealing water, and now he's just looking around and just trying to show and tell. We're not doing show and tell. But anyway.
We're trying to make people subscribe to the YouTubes.
We're trying, but we'll see. Or Big Ray's
We got
Twitter
12 listeners, but only 10 YouTube followers. 2 of them are holding out.
Again, let's just do the show. It will come organically. But anyway, we have to merge two subjects into one, TW, because we did a greatest heartthrobs edition of the Spotlight, and it's apropos that we're talking about the Rockers splitting up in 1992. But TW, the resume for the Rockers was there. They were tag team specialists since 1986. So this is from 86 to 92. This is a 6-year run. This is a 6-year legacy in two organizations where they were on the marquee, the American Wrestling Association, or the AWA for the slower ones, and the World Wrestling Federation, or the WWF for the slower ones too. But TW, 6 years together, 6 years traveling on the road, 6 years of ring psychology, 6 years of being, you could say, blood brothers, right, TW? So before we even get into the storyline wise and why they're breaking up, let's just look at it from the real life side. Eventually, you get into the wrestling business because what? You want to be the number one man or woman in the business. You want to be the world heavyweight champion. You want to be the main event on the card. You want to be like a Hulk Hogan, like for Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty at the time. You want to be Hulk Hogan on the marquee. You want to get the top pay and all that stuff. And they always say when you're a tag team, you got to split that pay. I don't know if that's what I've heard. You got to split that pay 50-50 and all that stuff. Again, that's one of those myths. But again, you get where I'm going with this. Maybe sometimes tag teams look at each other and say, you know what? I can make all that money by myself and I don't have to share it with you. What say you, TW, about the real life side of tag teams trying to hold on together, but eventually maybe that, professional envy, that professional jealousy, or that professional, apathy or ego within you, you want to be the guy.
Kayfabe or real?
Give it both.
So my particular situation was I was Tommy Wonder, and for a year I was Tommy Wonder, Too Hot Tommy Wonder, and for half of that year I wrestled Rico Rodriguez. Then they put us together in January, so actually 10 months, because we started 8 months. We started wrestling in May of 94, and by January of 95, we became Los Rudos, and I became Calavera Cortez. Part of me was always mad that I had to change my name, and he didn't, right? But it was so much fun wrestling tag team. It was almost too easy, right? Like, breaking news. Yesterday on Father's Day, we're recording this day after that. Happy Father's Day to you, by the way. If you didn't read my blanket, happy Father's Day, everyone. When I was wrestling, I had a friend, Larry Destiny, who's in LA now, and I was told by John Muse, the guy that made Los Rudos, that we were going to do a light heavyweight tournament, and me and Rico were going to wrestle each other in that tournament at some point. So this was like Demolition starting off the Royal Rumble, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And he told me to go to Canada, and he said, there's 3 guys there, and they were Bo Lewis, who had a cup of coffee in the wrestling business, but enough of an impression on me that I still remember him to this day, and he was only around for a few months back in 95, 96. The other was Bad Brad, who became one of the Outlaws. He was the 3rd Outlaw. Wrestled him a ton later on in life. But Larry Destiny was the 3rd guy, and I immediately picked him. He was the biggest guy. He looked the best. He looked like a star. I picked him. Yesterday, he texted me and said, hey, Tommy, I think I had an idea. We should have one more match. He goes, me versus you. I came in with you. It's only fitting we go out together. And I'm like, listen, dude, I haven't been in the ring in 2 years. I go, but if you make it a tag match, me and you against the world, I'm in. And he laughed. And he goes, I knew you'd say that. So we're going to probably do that.
Cool.
The point bringing that story up is when you're in a tag match, you can hide. So if you get winded, if you get hurt, you can go tag out. Even though you call a lot of spots, you can still take a breather, if you will, right?
Okay.
And so it's convenient, it's fun, but there's always going to be a part of you, if people are being honest, who thinks, I want to be the guy, right? And I was lucky enough in the indies, in most of the places that we wrestled as a team, I ended up being the guy. I ended up becoming the heavyweight champion. I won that light heavyweight tournament. So I was the GLW light heavyweight champion, the GLW tag team champions, and the GLW heavyweight champion. I think I'm the only guy to ever do that. I don't know.
You did a grand slam right there.
That's triple threat, whatever the fuck. It's not grand slam is 4. What's the first one? What's Pedro Morales? He was called
3-peat.
No, it's not 3-peat.
All right, just go into the story.
Anyway, so when me and him first formed Los Rudos in July or January of '95, it took another 6 months or longer before Scott D'Amore convinced me to do it in Canada, because I wanted to do the tag team with Rico around here, but in Lima, Ohio, and in Canada, I still was Tommy Wonder, right? But at some point you realize, okay, if I was just Calavera everywhere, it wouldn't matter. But now I'm coming across as Harvey Dent, and people won't know that Tommy Wonder and Calavera Cortez are the same guy, and I'm wrestling with 2 different names, and there's no mask involved, just the gear was different. I realized, okay, this Rudos thing has traction. All right. I said, Scott, I'll do it. So Scott made Los Rudos a team over there. We both turned on their partners that we fought each other in a tag match, so that could be on the greatest turns. I turned on Chris Pilon. We were called Purple Haze. He turned on Steve Nixon. That was just 2 guys they threw together to form Los Rudos in Canada. Rudos and Steve Nixon feuded in the States. So it was weird that Rico was teaming with him in the first place. If you read the sheets, right? Because we were in the sheets. The whatever.
You was telling a story. We hear that's a story. That's a long drawn out story right there.
So we actually made it make sense that he teamed with Nixon so he could turn on him, like, a tag match. So after a while, it took a long time for me to bring him down to Lima, Ohio. I talk about Lima, Ohio a lot. Me, Travis, and Larry are the only 3 guys not in the Hall of Fame from the 30 of us that wrestled all the time in the late 90s. So if any of those war guys are listening, we belong in that damn Hall of Fame.
You got to tag them. You got to tag them.
I wanted to keep that single stuff separate from the tag stuff. And then finally in Lima, Tommy Wonder for years there. I finally became Calavera Cortez, but I was Tommy Calavera Cortez, so that people still understood Tommy Wonder. Clearly, it's not my real last name, so it looked like I just went to my regular name. But to answer your question, in real life, yeah. But if you form a tag team and it's to the moon, and Cameron Grimes says, there's no way you want to quit doing it. It would, like, why would the Road Warriors ever want to not be the Road Warriors, right? Why? Why would either one of them ever? They were so over. Why would Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson ever want to not be the Rock and Roll Express, other than when Ricky got that taste, that moment? But here I go again. You understood it, but he still never turned his back on Robert in real life or kayfabe. They still always were kind of the Rock and Roll Express, but went their own way for a little bit, especially when Robert got hurt. So I think it's really circumstantial. If you're in a tag team and you feel like you're not going anywhere, it's human nature to think that's the reason you're not going anywhere. So you want to break away so you can do it. And there's a lot of tag teams in wrestling, both indies and on the main TV level, who never turned on each other because they didn't want to do that. It meant something to them, and they didn't want to do that, even though there's money there. There's so much money. Like, look at the Rockers. Jannetty gets canned.
Wait.
Let me just say, later.
TW, hold up. So in essence, you already said from the real world side, the money issue for tag teams. Let's just say, let's say Hogan, I'm going to put a ballpark figure, right? He did the main event at Madison Square Garden, right? Gets paid $25,000, and I'm being nice here, right? Rockers face the Brainbusters in the same card of Hogan. They get both, I would say, $7,500 a piece. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Now, you're telling me that
I don't think they're making that much.
No.
I'm saying
but let me just say this.
Considerably less than Hogan.
Right. So $7,500 a piece. That's $15,000. Let's just say you in the real life situation. Doesn't Shawn Michaels or Marty Jannetty say, I want to be the guy to get that? I want $15,000 myself. I don't want to split it. Is it a split or that's a set? That's what I'm trying to say.
I would tell you and I don't know this for certain, but I would tell you, whenever guys say thank you for the house to a Hogan or to Cena or whoever, The Rock, those guys got a bigger cut because it was their name on the marquee, if you will. That
no, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just giving an example of a ballpark figure.
But I'm telling you, everybody else on the undercard, with the exception of the fucking local job guys, probably all made the same amount of money. Nobody made more. Maybe the IC title match or the World Tag Team title match, they got more. Would they get as much as Hogan? No, but they would have got more than the other guys got, and individually, not like everyone got 500 and then that tag team title match got 1,000 each to split, because then they'd each only be getting 500 again. They each got 1,000, you know. So really, your place on the card matters. I would think, because some of those towns, the IC title was the main, and that
I understand.
They're not splitting it. They're all making the same. Like Lenny Poffo didn't make more in his match than the Rockers made in their match, and had to split it.
Oh, okay. So it was no 15,000, no split 50-50. You're getting your 7,500. You're getting, that's where you're set.
All four guys would have got that place in the show. They would have got, or a 6-man is probably not going to be a main event unless it's Hogan and the Road Warriors versus Flair and the Brainbusters. But
I get you.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
Otherwise, why would anybody want to be a tag team? If you had to split what everyone else is making themselves, you know, you're talking Bobby Brown logic now. Oh man, we all make $1 million a night 5 ways. I can make $1 million a night by myself. That's different when you're in music.
No, but that's the perception of the fandom here. That's the perception of the Martards. So sometimes, and that's what you're thinking. Even maybe in the logic, maybe in that Vince McMahon brainwashing logic, when you break up the tag team, it's because eventually that person wants to be the guy. That person wants to be in the main event. That person wants to make the money solo. But like TW is dismissing that myth, Reflectionites, that you're going to get the set. It's not a split. It's a set.
I would say this, the fact that you're in the tag team, there's a ceiling as to what you're going to make, because you're never going to be, I mean, you might be the main event in a B-town, but a B-town gate is not what an A-town gate is. So obviously Madison Square Garden holds more, costs more.
Nobody's going to make Road Warrior money. That's the ceiling, basically. So I don't even know if the Rockers could have made Road Warrior money. So that's neither here nor there. So now let's get into the kayfabe TW, because it's the second part of the question. But now let's look at it from that standpoint. Again, from the kayfabe, not the real life. But like I said, 6 years from the AWA and their wars with Playboy Buddy Rose and Pretty Boy Doug Summers, to the wars with Bad Company, to actually the wars in Mid-South against the Rock and Roll Express. If some Reflectionites might not know that, they fought each other. The Rockers against the Rock and Roll Express. There is a YouTube video on that.
You need to find that shit. I need to see that.
You never saw it?
Last week you told me it never happened. I said it never happened.
No, you said good teams never fought each other.
I said the Fantastics and the Rock and Roll never fought each other.
T and Couponer showed that video to me too. Show that to you too. But anyway, neither here nor there. Because
is it on Twitter? That's why I don't see
it is.
I don't see that shit. I never go on that.
I'm giving T and Couponer all the praises of Allah because he does it. And TW just dismisses it because he just doesn't.
Because I don't go on Twitter.
That's your fault, not my fault.
No, it's Twitter's fault. It's all the fucking pieces of shit that go on Twitter's fault. I got on there today. Today I got in there and went right in the fucking wormhole of arguing with fucking stupid people about politics.
Why are you arguing? So what?
Because they say some of the dumbest shit. And I can't help but tell them, are you stupid? Are you special? Because it's not true and you're a dumbass for thinking it is.
It's always dumb, but it's always entertaining. But anyway, neither here nor there. But the Rockers did what they did for those 6 years from 86 to 92. I guess you could say, TW, the ceiling was already there. They could go no higher. So you at least understood that Shawn and Marty might have had a taste for it. Shawn, I think, more than Marty, in my humble opinion. I don't know, because again, there's that infamous line that even TW said during the tag team Heartthrob Edition. Someone's going to be the Shawn Michaels of the tag team, and someone's going to be the Marty Jannetty of the tag team. And this is the precedent, Reflectionites. This is where it all started, TW. And TW, what say you about that? Because again, like I said, Shawn Michaels I mean, in hindsight, we knew that Shawn Michaels had the itch. He had the ego. He was ego driven. He was egocentric. He just needed a place to hone that ego in. And WWE was perfect. Vince McMahon was perfect for him to accentuate to being a dick, to being a prick, to being what TW hates right now in 2024, the Young Bucks. He was the Young Bucks before the Young Bucks ever were born. You agree with that, TW, or you got a different take?
It's very nice of you to consider the Young Bucks to him, but yes.
Mm-hmm. And with that being said, TW, let's examine this, because with this greatest heel turns, I want to get your storytelling and bookmaking, head going on this one, because this wasn't like one match and then they went next week. This actually percolated for like 6 months. You could say at least 5 to 6 months, because it started in, let's say, the summer of 1991, and then it morphed into January of 1992. So TW, with your booking brain activated right now, what say you about how WWE's told that story, how it percolated, how it would look nuanced? Because sometimes it happened on a wrestling challenge, sometimes it happened on Superstars of Wrestling. One of the times it happened at Survivor Series. So they showed little nuances of the miscommunication, little nuances of like heated moments. So what say you, TW, of how they let it percolate, and how maybe as the fan you was like, what's gonna happen next? Was it great storytelling?
Well, I don't remember a lot of it, so it was cool to watch that little video you sent me. And it's funny because as I'm watching him against the natural disasters, that was the first the first miscommunication storyline. I remember thinking, holy shit, man, I don't remember these guys wrestling these guys, right? Like, and I was thinking about how we talked about it when I thought the Fantastics and the Rock and Roll Express never wrestled each other, at least not on TV, right? And I think you said that too. Not on TV. They might have wrestled each other in the house shows. And then I'm watching them. I'm like, when you're a kid, you think they're way smaller than those guys. They're actually not. Shawn looked pretty good in there against Typhoon. And then they had a good little strategy, if you will, that, by the way, showed me I was right in saying they were, no offense to the GOATs, the OGs.
We're going to do that. We're doing that debate. Don't worry about that. We're doing that debate. We're going to do that debate. I'm going to be 2-0. But anyway, go ahead, TW.
Anyway, they look good in there. And as I'm watching it, they were talking about the Survivor Series coming up. And I'm like, man, it's nuts that the Rockers never fought the LOD. And fucking sure enough, 2 matches later, it's the Rockers versus the LOD. And I'm like, what the fuck? How did I miss this stuff? How did I not know? And it was so well done because they were losing clean, but they were losing because their cohesiveness was slipping. Mm-hmm. But what I think I would have done differently is it was so obvious Shawn was going to be the guy that I think Marty should have been the one who kept pushing Shawn's buttons, so that when Shawn did the super kick, it would have been a bigger shock, because everyone would have been expecting Marty to do it. That's the only thing I would have done different. And I wouldn't have had Marty slap him, but I would have had him do that pointing at his head, like, dude, get it together. Recently, they did that with, what's her name? Gargano's wife.
Candice LeRae.
Candice LeRae was doing it to the other one.
Indy Hartwell?
Indy Hartwell. But then she got on board and they started cheating together. But I liked it. But it was looking like Candice was going to turn on Indy, or she was going to have enough. And instead, she went dark side with her. I loved it. It was good. So that's what I would have done differently. But if you watch it, and I talked about this before, they used to do these kind of things at house shows. They did it with Lex and Razor. They do things to test the audience to see which guy they're going to either like more or hate more. And in this case, I don't think they liked Marty more. It was easy to dislike Shawn. So I think that's why they did it the way they did it, so that when they finally did pull the trigger, instant heat. Instant heat, which means what? Instant money. And that's a good reason to do it. And they eventually got back together, like when Shawn came back. So that's good.
That eventually was almost 20 years. But anyway, need to hear none of that. But
nobody's fault but Genetti's.
Again, we're not saying anything. That's why the phrase is existing in wrestling lore. You are either the Shawn of the group or the Marty of the group. But anyway, let's talk about these matches in more detail, because I want you to at least hone in on certain matches and certain things that was going on. But you got to look at it from a charismatic, stylistic points. And you just kind of pinpointed where they would go, because again, I understand your hindsight and the way you would love to have booked it, but when we see it, it's kind of funny and apropos, Reflectionites, that when you look at it right now in 2020 Quattro, and if you watch this since the 90s, the 80s and 90s, like TW and I have, it was a no-brainer that Shawn Michaels was going to be the villain. It was no-brainer that he was going to be the heel, because he can project being a dick and a prick. And in hindsight, TW, it was a no-brainer that Marty Jannetty just looked like a matter of fact, I don't give a fuck. Let's just, try to work together. Let's be that, rah-rah cheerleading type person. I got your back, you got my back. He was very humdrum. He was the Richie Cunningham of the Rockers. So I could not put him in that Shawn Michaels role of being a bad guy, because I wouldn't feel it. I wouldn't be invested. And I wouldn't even think it's real, because sometimes, like you say, it's easier to be the heel. Shawn Michaels needed to be the heel because it was easier for him to project who he is really inside. Marty can't. Marty, TW. You've experienced the Marty train in a good, bad, or indifferent way, no matter what. But you've experienced that. Train. I'm not talking. Get your head out the gutter. But anyway, you understand that. But anyway, you know Marty. But in the ring, he just looks humdrum. Maybe outside in the parties, he's a wild child.
Uninspired.
Whatever. But he never brought.
He looked like Robert Gibson.
That too, but if he was a wild child outside with the parties, with the coke and all that stuff, and all those stories about him and the girls in every city, every rat in every city, that he got free room and board, he never projected that. He never brought that to the ring. He never brought that character there. Shawn Michaels did, whether it was true or not. He brought that element. He probably brought Marty Jannetty's bad traits to the ring, and he made money. What say you, TW? Because again, hindsight 2020.
He's a natural heel, and he had it. Mm-hmm. Jannetty was a good worker, but didn't have it. And I think he's a heel in real life. You ever watch him on the internet? But he's a fun guy. You know what I mean? When I met him, he was awesome, man. I got no problems with him, and people do what they do.
But I'm saying why couldn't he project whatever you saw on the outside? Maybe he had charisma, he had character, and he just never projected that.
One of them was more hungry than the other one, and I think that played out.
Okay.
I would say the same for me and Rico. I would say I did more and went further than him because I wanted to do more and go further, and he was complacent. I think Jannetty was just happy to be there and didn't care. Like, if you watch the Barbershop and you watch...
let me just say this, TW, and then go back on your diatribe. But for today's purposes, Reflectionites, the closest thing to come in 2020 Quattro is actually LAX, Santana and Ortiz. Santana, when he got injured, TW, I know in the War Games, he mended his wounds. He got clean and sober, but also he got the fire. He wanted to be a main eventer. He wanted to do bigger and better things. He wasn't as complacent as Ortiz was, because Ortiz loves the paycheck. He loved a steady income, and he did not care what Tony Khan wanted him to do. And that's why they broke up in that standpoint, Reflectionites today. Santana's more hungrier. Ortiz is more complacent. So go ahead, TW. I just wanted to give that for today's purposes.
That's exactly it. It's a... I don't like people saying he's a good hand like it's an insult, right? But a good hand is someone who's just happy to be there. Hey, boss, how you doing? But I think there's a big, reading Shawn's book, he was a fan of wrestling. And I honestly believe the guys that go further are the guys that were fans of wrestling. Like a lot of those old school guys that were just kind of dicks to me when I first got into business, and you can't be a mark for the business, you can't watch wrestling, blah 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 blah.
They were hazing you though. They wanted to see if you were true to it.
They were probably trying to hold me back because they didn't want to lose their spots, and they did. It's just natural selection. Eventually, I lost my spot. Right? It's nobody. Time waits for no man. House party. But I feel like being told not to watch wrestling held me back, held me down, because finally just one day I was like, wait a minute. If I don't watch wrestling, then A, how am I going to know what they want? And B, how am I going to know where I fit in? Right? And I would watch it and I'm like, man, there's no one there like me. Like I don't belong there. And then it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. There's no one there like me. That means I do belong there because they need something different. Right? So that lit a fire under me that if I wouldn't have started watching it again just to keep a pulse on the business, then why do it? You know, and I've talked about it on here before. Some of the guys that I loved as a fan, once I got into business, I didn't love them anymore. And it's Luger. I mean, I still love him, don't get me wrong, but he was no longer my idol. He was my wrestler that I liked as a kid and had a heavy influence on me for a lot of things, selling, moves, all that. But Brett and Shawn became my guys because they loved the business. Guys like Lex and Goldberg and Nash and maybe even Scott Hall, they loved the money. They didn't love the business. And Scott Hall's a perfect example of Jannetty. Neither one of them were world champions, and they only had themselves to blame because Marty was in the exact same position Shawn was in, and Shawn is referred to as inarguably or arguably the best to ever do it. Marty was in the same fucking canoe with a paddle on the other side of it and could have done the same thing, but Shawn took what they gave him and he made chicken shit into chicken salad. Marty just ate the chicken shit. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying he took what he got.
It's very truthful.
And he wasn't insatiable. Shawn was insatiable, wanted more. I went to the chiropractor today, and I saw x-rays of my hips. And I was like, wow, it's weird seeing your bones on a TV screen, right? And I could tell looking at it what he was showing me that the alignment was off. But I also was noticing they didn't look the same on both sides. They did not look symmetrical. And it ended up being because one of my hip sides is turned in, so it looks smaller. But I'm like looking at it going, fuck. And
So which part of your hips is the Marty? The one that's turned?
The left. The left.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
So it's like this. So instead of like this, one of them was like that. So like that. And then my spine was still straight, but on an angle. So he's adjusted me to get my shit back straight. And I believe a lot of that was from doing the elbow off the top rope. And when I drove home from there, 50 years old, haven't really wrestled every weekend since I was 2004, so 31. So 19 years it's been since I was doing it every weekend, right? And so it's like, 18 and a half years. And then I went back and was doing it once a month, not once a week or twice a week, 3 times a week. And I just think of guys like AJ and hell, Shawn, because he didn't give it up for a long time. And you just think the bumps that guys like AJ and Shawn took, that's the shit I was doing. I was a bump machine. And I think how fucked up my x-rays look. And I just think, I probably would throw up if I looked at Shawn's, right?
And think of the Ring of Honor guys in the 2000s right now that took those kind of bumps too on a consistent basis.
That's what I mean by they're sacrificing because they want it, and they are doing what it takes to make it at the cost of a comfortable future down the road. You know, I always knew the day was coming. I used to always think, man, I got lucky that I never got really, really badly hurt in wrestling. I did fold my leg in half. Thankfully, it didn't break because it probably would have broke through the fucking skin and I would have been done. There would have been no more Tommy Wonder Calavera Cortez if it would have broke compound.
Well, you know, in defense of Marty, I understand your analogy with your hip and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but Marty has paid his dues. Marty is paying the price right now.
I'm saying Shawn took the bumps. I'm saying Shawn took the bumps.
Marty took bumps, and you know where he is right now in a wheelchair. I'm just saying. But again, I'm not going to say he doesn't have that fire and desire to get paid. He just didn't have the it factor to get to the next level.
Need more. He was cool at what he had, but I think in hindsight he would have done more because one of the reasons he's in the boat he's in is because he's older than me, and up until recently was still wrestling. He ain't still wrestling because he loves it. He's still wrestling because he's broke. Remember I told you 15 years ago when I saw that movie, I said, that movie is bullshit. That motherfucker working at the grocery store, cutting his finger on purpose on the saw, then going to wrestle for one big payday. First of all, if you're that fucking broke working at the grocery store, you were never shit in the business, right? And second of all, if you did go back and wrestle, you ain't making the payday because you're not shit. And then the next 15 years went by, and all the dudes that I grew up watching who did not save their money, who did not do what it took to protect themselves, are there's we over the years of us doing
they're their own worst enemy. Yes, they're their own worst.
Ric Flair is Randy the Ram. We've said this guy is Randy the Ram. There's fucking 30 of them. Jannetty's Randy the Ram. Bobby Fulton, God bless him. He's on my Facebook. He just announced his retirement at 62.
Ricky Morton, God bless him. He's still wrestling right now.
These are guys that did not save their money and did not make more when they could.
Or they got child support to pay. But anyway, neither here nor there. So now let's get into what it is that we do here. The greatest heel turns edition, TW. So again, let's kind of like pick our poisons here with the, the chronology, if you will, TW, of 1991. Because again, they are called tag team specialists for a reason, and TW will say they're the GOATs because it's the purest art form of wrestling in the sense of a Rockers match. We talk about the Rockers against the Brainbusters, the Rockers against Heart Foundation, the Rockers against Demolition, when they were a cohesive unit. So TW, how can you, let's just say this, because again, if you're being booked as tag team specialists, as what Vince McMahon and Gorilla Monsoon call them on a weekly basis, how can we justify that they're miscommunicating? How can we, justify, maybe the professional jealousy? How can we, justify even a hint, TW, a hint of anger? How did they pull that off, TW, to make it make sense? Because again, if you're being called tag team specialists for a reason, I can't, people, the nitpicky mark charts out there, TW, how could that happen? How could they just be all of a sudden just don't like each other?
No, it's not that they don't like each other. It's simple. It's one word: frustration. What they could have done one more thing to even up the ante even more. They could have acknowledged that they beat the Heart Foundation for the tag belts, but they reversed the decision because of the rope breaking. Instead of hiding it and making it folklore, they could have said it. So now, you said it yourself. They've been doing it for 6 years. Yes, they were AW World Tag Team Champions. That's basically the equivalent of being NXT Tag Team Champions, right? They're not.
That's a slap in the face, but go ahead.
It is, but it's a real one. It's a reality slap in the face. It's not the big one, which is the WWF. Even the Rock and Roll Express would tell you that. NWA is very prestigious. WCW, it's 1 point maybe before it became a hot potato. But they were frustrated because they were always this close to winning the tag belts, but never did. So the frustration is, instead of doing what they always did, now they're trying to do more different things, and it's not working because it's messing with their timing. And again, I think they did it beautifully between Shawn not being there to tag him because he was hitting on a chick. Between Shawn being in between the natural disasters and Marty does a whoop-de-doop on Typhoon and drop kicks him, not knowing that he just pancaked Shawn, right?
Right.
And then I'm not even sure why Marty left. Did he chase Jimmy Hart? Okay. And then
let's divulge on that first match right there that we see the let's just say the walls crumbling down.
They weren't focused and they were frustrated. Those are the two words that I would tell you justify this storyline is they forgot what got them there and or no longer believed in what got them there and were trying different shit.
So you saw the frustration more on the face of Shawn Michaels than more on Marty Jannetty, TW, right? Yeah. Because again, Marty, I'm not saying Marty's trying to show complacency, but he's just showing that, you know what, we'll get him next time, partner. We'll get him next time, no matter what. But and now Shawn is saying we lose, we're not getting paid. We lose, we're on the bottom of the barrel of being number one contenders to the tag team titles. He's looking at the big picture. Marty's just looking at the, treading along. Is that a good assumption there?
Marty's like, we live to fight another day. He's Ice Cube's dad in Friday. You win some, you lose some. You live to fight another day.
Right. So another appealing thing about the, let's just say the disintegration of the Rockers, TW, is that Shawn Michaels actually had a taste of singles life, if you will, because he fought the real world's champion, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. So, again, it's nothing new to us, TW. We saw like Ricky Morton get a shot at Ric Flair, not for the title. This wasn't for the title. This was just a one-on-one match. But you saw like the alphas of your team getting that single spot per se, and Marty Jannetty was in the back cheering him along. So let's say TW, because again, it's kind of like a good like arc in the story because it's different, but Shawn has got to trust himself. He's not depending on Marty, so it's a whole new world. But of course, you got to play along like, well, his partner's not there, so he can bounce off of him. He can rely on him and all that stuff. What's the ATW about that arc in the story when he got a taste of the singles life?
And it was awesome because they didn't do the cliche shit where he was looking to make a tag because Rick was whooping his ass, right? Shawn was giving him, as he said on the Barbershop, the wrestling lesson of his lifetime. Shawn was fucking tackle drop down, headlock takeovers, hip tosses, head scissors. He was putting it to Flair and then hit his head on the guardrail, and Marty came out to save the day. But it was an awesome match. It's one I do remember right down to the fact that I didn't remember going in, but I've remembered it my whole life. Marty came out in an Overkill t-shirt, which is a very, very heavy metal band that I did not listen to, but friends of mine listened to. They're like Metallica and heavy, but I remember that match, and it kind of goes to show you, like, for all the shit they say about Flair or Vince not being open to whatever, there's no doubt in my mind Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels happened because Ric Flair suggested it, like he did against Ricky Morton and Hawk and Mike Rotunda. Like, he would always fight half of a tag team, and it would elevate that tag team guy, but also give credibility for Flair beating them because he beat somebody that was a winner, not just a job guy. And it didn't bury a singles guy. You know what I mean? That had to be, because the WWE didn't do that shit. You never saw Hulk Hogan defending the belt against fucking half of fucking Power and Glory. He fought Hercules.
Maybe a house show he would do that, but not on TV.
Yeah. House shows are usually Hogan defending the belt against somebody in the heat.
But he would defend it against somebody. He could defend it against half a tag team. It did happen.
That would be more like Superstars if he actually wrestled on Superstars.
But again, the business was different back then. But again, I get where you're going. I understand your analogy, but I'm just giving you the logistics. It could happen. It did happen in the house show circuit. But again, let me ask you this. Let me flip it here, because what if, and I'm not trying to make a what if out of this, but we have to. What if they've reversed it and Marty faced Ric Flair? Will we get the same arc, or will we just look at Ric Flair squashing Marty, and then, if you maybe Shawn Michaels comes to ringside and be like, I could have beat him easier than you. I could have done.
And then still do the same match where Marty made him lose because Shawn was out of the ring. That's one thing I didn't like about that match was Shawn was dead selling. Like, Marty had to pick up his limp body, put it in the ring.
Well, he hit his head on the railing. His head on the railing.
Right,
so.
But hear me out. Then Flair pinned him with his feet on the ropes. And if he would have said it a week later after watching it on TV, that's fine. But in the ring, he pushed Marty and goes, "What the fuck, man? Why'd you pick me up from down there?" How would he even know? He was dead selling. That I didn't like. He could have been looking at him. But I like your idea. I think Marty versus Flair should have been Flair winning pretty easily in like 10 minutes, even tapping him out to the figure.
No, but everything you said about the dead selling, it actually works better with Marty taking the hit and then Shawn like forcing him in there. Ric Flair pins him. He can do the same shit.
But then what do you do with Shawn after that?
Well, but Shawn looks disgusted, like, you're my teammate. You're supposed to, you're supposed to represent us, man. You're supposed to represent the Rockers. He looks more frustrated. But that's just the way I would have done
and
it.
And then have Marty do the exact same thing, and then Shawn losing him get mad because he rolled him in the ring. That would have been good.
Yeah, it could have happened that way.
Shawn did it first, and then Marty did it, and Shawn's mad at him. Why'd you roll me in the ring, man? I had him right where I wanted him. But I liked it. It was a good match, and it's probably, obviously they were already going in that direction. Maybe they had a house show match before that wasn't on TV, but it's the pivotal moment in Shawn's career where they're like, okay, this guy can go one-on-one with Ric Flair.
It's pivotal because he was on he was on syndication or USA Network. He got a shot at Ric Flair. He got a shot at the big time, and he passed the test with flying colors, even though they were going to go with that arc anyway. But Vince McMahon said, you know what? Maybe we can hone in on, we can, tweak the character. We can refine the character in a couple of months of time, and then we can get the right Shawn Michaels for the masses. So TW, the next part of this disintegration happened at the Survivor Series, where it was a 2-on-2 tag team, you could say. It was Shawn and Marty teaming up with the Bushwhackers against the Beverly Brothers. I forgot the other tag team, but neither here nor there. But it was who?
Nasty Boys.
Oh, Nasty Boys. So TW, we saw the miscommunication there, but it was 4-on-4, so you can understand a little bit more of the miscommunication. But Shawn was hot. Shawn was heated and all that stuff. So let's say TW, because again, it's telling the arc, but you gotta there's gotta be levels to the arc of, I'm gonna pop you sooner or later. I'm gonna pop you. We're seeing the little frustrations of yelling and looking at each other.
That's why I would have preferred it to be the other way around. I would have preferred it to be Marty almost doing that, but never does. And then the one time Shawn gets mad at Marty, kicks him in the face, and throws him through the window. I think it would have been more out of nowhere, if you will. And
but TW, this is a pay-per-view. They chose not to, let's say, pay it off at the pay-per-view. They chose, Vince McMahon chose to arc it and milk it a little bit more. That's why I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting, decision out of Vince McMahon. But again, there's not 12 pay-per-views a month at that time. So he had no choice but to arc it. That's what was surprising to me in hindsight. He didn't choose to break up the Rockers at Survivor Series. Was that surprising to you, or
no? Because in the past, one of the most memorable moments in the history of superstars and challenge was the coconut to Snooker's head on the Piper's Pit. It was Andre pulling the necklace off of Hogan on Piper's Pit. It was the Snake Pit where Honky Tonk Man hit Jake the Snake over the head with a guitar. And it was the Body Shop when one of those guys took the weights and put them on the chest of whoever it was. I think it might have been Ted Arcidi. I don't know, the bench press challenge. But this was what gave the Barbershop the rub, because the Barbershop needed a moment like those play. Think about modern wrestling, the KO show and Aussie, whatever the hell that's called. The only thing that happens on there is the person, the Miz or Kevin Owens, whoever, antagonizes whoever the guest is, and then they go into a feud. Nothing really big happens on there. Or it's a contract signing and people fight at the nothing. No one's turned on anybody on a KO show or on the Snake Pit or on. Dude, some fucking hood rat is trying to fucking call me on the scene.
Jesus Christ. Well, Marty's listening right now, so the hood rat of Marty is trying to get.
You ever look at your Skype and there's missed calls from and it says translation complete?
Well, you know what? I'm doing the show. I focus on the show because I respect you that much.
Screen. The fucking thing
I respect you so much. I do not get distracted. Unlike TW doesn't respect the professor.
For you at all?
No, it was fine.
You disappeared, and the thing went huge, and it said incoming call, Lovia. Whoever the fuck that is.
Whatever. But anyway, go on, TW.
Probably Marty. Fuck me! I didn't know what I was saying. Now that damn thing just did.
You was talking about how the talk shows of the WWE had bigger moments.
So now when you watch well, you know what? I just forgot. The fucking best friends ceremony where KO turned on Jericho. That made that, right? So this moment, building up.
Magic moment.
Plus they did the handshake, like, oh yeah. And that crowd.
No. Don't go there yet. We're talking about
the way they did it. They build all this tension up, and they make you worried, and then they ease your mind.
Yeah, but that was again. You could say that's the beauty of Vince McMahon milking it more. But it was the pay-per-view. It was shocking because again, you could have broke up the Rockers there. You could have set up for a match at maybe Saturday night's main event. You could have started it a little bit early, but Vince McMahon said, no, not yet. It's not ready yet. So we go from Survivor Series to a match that TW thought that never existed. The Rockers versus the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. I think it was for the tag team titles. It was. So this is their moment. This is actually apropos before we get to the Barbershop Reflectionites that this is, the tag team either lives or dies if they do not win the WWE Tag Team Championships. The only problem I have is the commentary really did not hone in on it. They just honed in on the miscommunication. They honed in on the frustration, but they could have storytold it a little bit like, man, Shawn's been saying we need this, or Marty, if we don't get this, I don't know what's going to happen with the Rockers or something like that. Something needed to be said in that instance. That's the only thing I did not like. Maybe I'm nitpicky on that, but I think you needed Vince. I think it was Vince and Heenan on the call. Oh, it's Vince and Perfect. Okay,
Perfect
either way,
saying it was a weird match.
It was a weird match, but it should have been understood that it was all or nothing. That's the way I looked at it.
Win or go home.
Had to win or go home. So what's ATW about this match before we get to the Barbershop?
This is another one where I'm watching it, and I just don't. It's like, I don't know if my eyeballs are fucking bigger now than they were when I was a kid, but they did not look little to me. They looked fine in there with Hawk and Animal.
Maybe it's that big ring. Maybe it's the big WWE ring, like you always keep saying.
The big WWE ring is what makes people look small, because if you go to WCW, Bret Hart, first time I saw him in the WCW ring, I was like, fuck. The guy grow 2 inches and fucking gain 50 pounds because he looked like a man in there. And WWF, he looked like a midget. But at the end of the day, they did awesome double team moves on Hawk and Animal. They made Hawk and Animal look silly, and Hawk and Animal wrestled like heels for it. A lot of punching and kicking, and the crowd was into it. And I think we're cheering more. This is what you run the risk when you do all these teases for breaks. You run the risk of the crowd turning on them, and I felt like the crowd was more for the LOD than they were for the Rockers.
That's natural. You know who they are. The Road Warriors are already.
But if you watch
the legacy's there.
Go back and watch it. The Rockers had all the passion and the emotion. LOD looked like they were going through the motions, and
I get you, but again,
they didn't do it.
They didn't tell the right story to me. It should have been all or nothing, like you said. Right. It should have been like, this is the biggest match in our careers. We need this. We never won the tag team titles here at the WWE. This needs to happen. I need it. I'm fixated. I'm frustrated. I'm ovulating. Whatever the case may be, they gotta say that. They gotta do it. That's all I'm just saying. And then TW go with. I know. I got you. But
I finally popped in this fucking slow head of mine. I finally remembered it. Triple Crown.
Patrick, I know. You said it. Yes. Whatever. But anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get to the ending, because you said one of the things that happened during this arc is Marty did something. He almost popped Shawn Michaels here. So what's AEW? Like you said, you wanted Marty to kind of be the one frustrated, all that stuff. You got your moment mostly there because he was going to do it. Because
he was sick of getting slapped.
Well, that too.
He got to his breaking point. So maybe that's what they did do in hindsight. Made it look like Marty had enough and was going to do it, and then Shawn did it. But I like how Shawn was frustrated, even though it's his fault. He's the one that dropped kick. I love the finish, by the way. Absolutely loved it. They didn't get murdered by the LOD like most people would think. And if you watch the replay in slow motion, Animal waits until the absolute last second to turn. Like, he did it on purpose. Like, all right, thanks for the help, Shawn, and turned his back. And Marty, like, he just got the wind knocked out of him from, like, that fall down slam. Just an awesome finish. Then the Road Warriors got out of the ring to let them have their little moment, which is normally not the case. Normally when you go over, the guy that loses gets out of the ring. Okay. And he keeps paintbrush slapping them until he had enough. And then that led to the barbershop.
Right. So now we go to the most infamous moment in the history of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty collectively, because I don't think, especially in the WWE TW, I don't know if you remember a Rockers match, but you'll remember this Rockers moment. It was the barbershop. It was with Bruce the Barber Beefcake. And you can see the difference here because Shawn Michaels is already looking heelish. Shawn Michaels is already looking cocky and arrogant. He's looking like a Gino Hernandez. He's looking like, he's trying to look like a really like a Blue Oyster Richard Morton, whatever the case may be. But he's looking more heelish. He's coming with the black leather jacket. And the funny thing about this was the start of the and the cowboy, whatever. But the start of this TW was that before the barbershop, they did something. Well, Vince McMahon was also kind of smart enough to do this. The WWE magazine before the barbershop came, they did the infamous barbershop scene. If you went to the newsstands, they actually had on the front cover, is the Rockers gonna break up or something?
It was the middle of the magazine.
Yeah, it was the cover.
No, he opened it up, and Shawn was on one page, Marty was on the other.
Dude, I have a Mandela effect. They were on the cover with the slit on the bottom in the middle.
Nope.
All
Shawn
right, whatever.
ripped it in half at the end.
But it happened before. It happened before the barbershop. They put the.
Because that was in January, and the Rift started before Survivor Series in November. Yeah. It started in October, November. So by the time...
The Rift started in the summer of 91. But anyway, it all culminated to this. But the WWE magazine, the article was there. Brutus Beefcake actually talked about the article too, because that came out first before the barbershop. So now what say ETW? Because again, it's all or nothing. You got to go one way or the other. What say ETW about the infamous barbershop scene?
And it was awesome because it also alluded to how Marty had him by the neck and was going to punch him. And then Shawn, in a very heel-like move, kneeled down and looked up like, what? Why? Why would you do that? Right? Like, he didn't do nothing wrong. So Shawn said, there's no problem with the Rockers. I'm the captain of this team. I put it all together. And Marty's over there just looking around and finally says, listen to yourself. There's no captain on this team. We've done everything together. We done this, that, and really in AWA, Marty was the one that put it together. That's the interview in AWA. I got this young kid, Shawn Michaels. I'm bringing him up here. We're going to be called the Midnight Rockers. So I like that they did that, and it was looking like Marty's had enough. And then they did, I'm going to turn my back on you. You can walk away, or when I turn around, we're going to shake hands and make this work. And everyone in that building thought the second Marty turned around, he was taking it to the back of the head, and he didn't. Shawn turned him around, and when he shook his hand, that crowd popped like, yeah, which undid all the damage.
And let's not forget, if you was watching it on TV, the commentary of Bobby the Brain Heenan is gold. Told you. He was like, I told you. See, one without the other, it just doesn't mesh anymore. They need each other. And then the infamous super kick. And then Bobby the Brain Heenan just went way left. Oh, I knew he was going to do that. He don't need Jannetty and all that stuff. So TW, take it home with how great this was.
It was absolutely beautiful. I mean, it was Orndorff Hoganish. He held his arm up, and he pushed him like a pat on the chest so he'd go a little bit further back, and then potatoed him with them damn cowboy boots. And then he said, you want to be concerned for me? You need to be concerned for yourself. And then threw him through the window. And then turned and posed long enough for Marty to blade to make those AEW nerds happy because there's blood. And then drags him out of the window, held him up, slapped him a little bit, and then grabbed that magazine and one page in the centerfold, half of it was Shawn, half of it was Marty, and the word rockers with the line in between was half on one page, half on the other. And he goes, "Is there a problem with the rockers?" Dude, Marty's picture at him, held his up and says, "I don't think so. I've been saying that line for years." I turned on Rico and said, "Is there a problem with the Rudos?" "I don't think so," because I turned on Rico. That is one of my all-time favorite moments, and one of my all-time least favorite moments is Andre ripping that fucking cross off Hogan's neck. I cried like a little bitch. Like, how you doing that, Andre? But if you'd have told me then, but I know now, I would have. When I say it's one of my all-time favorite moments, it's over time. At the time, devastated. They were my favorite tag team. I was mad that they still hadn't won the belts. I was so happy when they got to the WWE. So broken when they got fired after one night. I knew that from the sheets and the hotlines. And so when they were finally there and they're on their way, they're opening Rumbles with the Orient Express. They're opening up Manias with Power and Glory. Like, I knew they were finally on their way, and then bam! And I just remember, what the fuck? And then Shawn came out, going from this to this, and that is when Tommy Wonder, the child, became a fan of heels. That guy changed me. I was already a fan of Perfect, Rude, and Razor Ramon in high school, but they weren't my favorites. It was still Hogan. It was still Sting. It was still Luger. This guy right here changed the game. This guy right here is who I tried to be when I started wrestling. I had this haircut. I had these sunglasses. I wore that black leather jacket to the ring in my first match in Windsor, Ontario. I did. I had the long earrings. That guy immediately, once he turned on Marty, became the guy that I wanted to be. And it was the greatest thing to ever happen to Shawn, worst thing to ever happen to Marty. Marty got some residual for it because he had that IC run because of it. He got to come back on Shawn's nostalgia tour, and he got his name out of it. He's making money on the indies to this day because of that moment. If that moment doesn't happen, I don't know that Marty's getting paid what he makes on the indies.
We could put a bow on this Reflectionites, but TW, let's expound on that for a second, because you held up the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels action figure there. He changed his whole look. He did not want to look anything like the Rockers. He did not want to have any. I
remember him coming out with that tattoo when it was fresh and it had the shine from the oil.
He made a conscious effort to try to disassociate any history of the Rockers. Marty didn't. Marty just kept the train of being a rock. He was the rocker Marty Jannetty. I think sometimes he was announced that way too. Sometimes.
He was.
So
a rocker. One
made a conscious effort to change his character, change his direction. The other thought he could just be the singles rocker, and he became what is infamously known as the Shawn of the group and the Marty of the group. So TW, let's put a bow on it. And you already kind of said it. It was a doom. It was a death nail for Marty Jannetty's singles career. But again, he got residuals. But for legacy purposes, that was it for Marty. He could never recover. Even having the IC run and even having the rocker feud, if you will, in 1993, a year later, that was all he had left. That was the only story, because Marty Jannetty against Razor Ramon didn't draw. Marty Jannetty against Diesel didn't draw. Marty Jannetty and Al Snow.
He was on Nitro for a little bit too.
He did. Can I say my diatribe first before you try to ask me questions?
Man.
But I'm doing a diatribe, man. But anyway, Marty Jannetty.
Never stand next to a barbershop window next to me, buddy.
Just that. Yeah, I will. I'll move. My hips don't lie, and my hips are straight. But anyway, neither here nor there.
That's what those dudes say. Yeah.
Shut up. But anyway, Marty Jannetty, and then the new Rockers with Al Snow, and I know you have an affinity for Al Snow, so I'm not going to say they suck. But
that's shit for the new Rockers, I can tell you that.
But the new Rockers just didn't draw and all that stuff. So TW, let's put a bow on this. This technically was the death nail to Marty Jannetty. He could have retired right there. He could have just won on the indie circuit.
Because he got to be tag team champions finally. That guy had 2 out of the 3 belts in WWE. That's impressive, man.
But did it matter? Even for Marty?
Hell yeah.
It just didn't matter.
Are the
man.
Rockers in the Hall of Fame?
No. Only Shawn is.
Wow. So Lex Luger, my childhood idol, and the Rockers, my childhood influence. Neither one of them are in the fucking Hall of Fame. That's bullshit.
Well, again, with the Triple H regime, they will be. It's just a question of when is the right time and the right WrestleMania. I don't know. Maybe Vegas is the right time for Marty Jannetty because then he could just piss away his retirement money check and he'd be like, spend it at the casino, all that stuff. So, right. TW, any other lasting, because you said that this was, you incorporated your heel turn against Rico the Shawn Michaels way. You used the line. So
no, I would do that.
It had a lasting effect for you. Friends. Oh no, but it had a lasting effect for you in the
most infamous turns in wrestling. There's a third one, but it's not the same. The two most infamous turns in wrestling. And there's been hundreds of them, thousands.
Of course.
Are Orndorff? You got Orndorff, or you got Jannetty, which is Barbershop window. Those are the two most infamous heel turns in the history of the business. There's nothing even close to it after that. Hogan doing the leg drop on Macho Man at Bash at the Beach. That he turned on the fans. He turned on the company, but he didn't turn like Orndorff turned on him, like Shawn turned on Marty. It's like getting stabbed versus being shot. Hogan turning was shooting a gun from far away. Marty and Orndorff, absolutely intimate, stabbed right in the fucking heart, right on TV in front of the world. They are hands down the two most referenced heel turns and the two most emulated. Just people try to reenact them in their living rooms on their little brother. They try to reenact them at school, on a football field. People just have done it to each other for years, especially the Orndorff one, because it's real easy to fucking clothesline somebody standing next to you. But that super kick, to this day, I've gone after church with people to the sporting goods store, and I hid in the clothing rack and popped out and super kicked all my friends. It's probably why I fucked my hip up, but I do that stuff all the time. That to me is my favorite heel turn ever, is Shawn turning with Marty, because of what it brought. It basically strapped the rocket to Shawn Michaels' back. That's the moment. And I also conversely love that Brett never turned on Neidhart. I love that too. So it was masterfully done. Until you sent me that collage, I didn't realize all the hints that were there. So it was really, really, really well done. It wasn't.
There's nothing left to say.
It was so violent that I mean, it left people crying. Like just dumbfounded. Like you didn't just turn on him, you just humiliated him and put him through a window. Like that, he killed him. It was well done.
Absolutely. And with that being said, there's nothing left to say. We close on this PWR Spotlight Greatest Heel Turns Edition. Again, I do TW's most infamous moments. We did the Orndorff. Now we did the Jannetty. So I know TW is creaming in his pants like I did. I finally done my two favorite heel turns of all time. Thank you, Professor. I expect a lot of money for my Christmas gift. But anyway, neither here nor there. So we close on this Spotlight Edition on the PWR podcast. Say what?
Did you see that?
Yeah, the thumbs up.
I did this, and then it popped up on the screen.
Siri is a
you
motherfucker.
Didn't see that?
I saw it. Siri is a motherfucker.
It looked
or Alexa, whatever the case may be.
Like an orb.
Again, let's close on the show. Again, what are we gonna do next week? Reflectionites, TW. We got to go back episodic because Donnie Day 1, even though he's on 2020 Deuce, we at least got to get one step closer to 200.
He's the Don of Dadhood, is what I named him yesterday. And a happy Father's Day. He sent me one. You didn't send me one. Ray did. He did. You did.
I sent it for everybody on my template.
That's what I did.
Yeah. It was too many. But anyway, neither here nor there. So Donnie Day 1.
Plus all those dudes you call Daddy. Don't forget them.
Shut up. Anyway, Donnie Day 1, happy Father's Day. But I know that you're still on 2020 Deuce. So we're one step closer to the elusive 200. I'm trying to hold on. So this way, Donnie Day 1 can at least be right there to celebrate with us live. So we're gonna go episodic. And TW, we're gonna do a show that, you know what? It's funny. Out of all these years, we never did an episode, and I found it, and I figured we should talk about it. WWF Shotgun Saturday Night. We're gonna do one of those debut episodes where they did it from either Webster Hall, Penn Station, the Flying Nuns, or the Mirage Club in New York City. But anyway, TW, get ready for one of those editions of Shotgun Saturday Night because we've never done it. So I figured it was apropos and an episodic to do a Shotgun Saturday Night. So that being said, TW, give out those socials so we can finally get the hell out of here.
All right. The Probationary Pro Wrestling Coalition Network sponsors us at PWC Network at podbean.com, as well as Hameen Media Group at podbean.com and HMG at channelattitude.com. Our show is on the X at PW Reflection. You can find Big Ray Hernandez everywhere at Big Ray Hernandez. And every Wednesday, he's live on YouTube on the Next Level podcast. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at TommyWonder19, and as well as Twitter, X. My Snapchat is #1. Then my other Twitter and TikTok are at TheTommyWonder, Facebook.com/TommyWonder. And you can find Big Vito and Noel at Big Vito Brand on TikTok. And you can find the early release of our reflection videos at Big Ray Hernandez on X.
And you can find me on my Xer at PWSPRF, that's PWSProf. And if this gets uploaded by that slow-ass motherfucker A-Track Brown, this will be on the PWS YouTube networks. Follow my brothers in arms, Billy Ray Valentine, the Wednesday Locker Room at Obi-Wan You Know Me, and of course, the King of the Reactions, 8-Track Brown at the #8, TRAC Brown. And again, next week, we're going to go episodic. We're going to do a WWF Shotgun Saturday Night edition. And with that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, Dum Dum Do Idiot's own, the Iron Stomach One, the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, and the Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World. Tommy Wonder saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the PWR podcast at the Hameen Media Group at podbean.com. Peace.
Is there a problem with the rock?